And tonight here at home, family and friends of a 16-year-old who was shot to death last month gathered today not only to honor her, but to call for action. Atlanta police say a teenage boy was arrested after the shooting at the Hyatt Regency, but as Fox 5's Alex Whitler reports, her family says that's not enough.
On the early morning of December 26, 2020, at around 12:27 in the morning, police received a distress call from the Hyatt Regency Atlanta Hotel in downtown Atlanta. When officers arrived at the scene, they found hotel staff and guests in complete shock and panic.
She was responsible for getting the hotel room for these minors. The hotel room was in her name, so I feel like she should be held accountable for my daughter's death as well.
In the lobby, a 16-year-old girl lay on the floor surrounded by teenagers who had carried her body downstairs, and a compassionate hotel guest named China Starkey held her hand, whispering words of comfort even though the girl was already gone. The young woman was Kalisha Williams, a 16-year-old aspiring TikTok influencer from Atlanta, Georgia, who had been fatally shot just minutes earlier in a hotel room upstairs. As investigators began piecing together what had happened that night, they would discover that this tragedy wasn't just a random act of violence. It was the result of deception, poor judgment, and a series of terrible decisions made by teenagers who thought they were just having fun at a Christmas party.
The demonstration lasted hours, and the family says it's just the beginning of their fight for Pinky.
We want answers! We want justice!
This is the tragic story of Kalisha Williams, a young girl with dreams of TikTok fame whose life was stolen in a hotel room under circumstances that still raise questions and suspicions to this day. Kalisha Williams was born on January 1, 2004. She was a 16-year-old student at South Atlanta High School who had built a modest but growing following on TikTok under the handle @KalishaWilliams722. She had over 3,000 followers, and while that might not seem like a huge number compared to mega influencers, for a teenager just starting out, it represented real potential and a dream she was actively working toward.
Kalicia's mother says this is the last known video that shows her daughter alive. It shows her making a TikTok dance and appears startled when someone comes into the room. Within seconds, the video ends.
Kalisha loved creating dance videos, following trends, and connecting with people through social media. Her posts showed a typical teenage girl having fun, expressing herself through movement and music, and trying to build something meaningful in the digital space that had become so important to her generation. Her friends and family gave her the nickname Pinky, simply because of her vibrant personality and the way she brought color and energy into every room she entered.
I want the surveillance footage of what happened, you know, who went in that room, who came out of that room, who was all there, what took place. I need to know what happened after she made that last TikTok video.
Like many teenagers, Kalisha was navigating the complicated world of friendships, social media, and trying to figure out who she was and who she wanted to become. She had close friends she trusted, including a girl named Infinity Adams who went by Finn to her friends. Infinity and Kalisha had been close, the kind of friendship where you share secrets, make plans together, and trust each other with things you wouldn't tell your parents. As Christmas 2020 approached, Infinity came to Kalisha with an exciting proposition. She informed Kalisha that she was organizing a girls-only Christmas sleepover party on December 25th, and she really wanted Kalisha to come. According to what Infinity told Kalisha and her parents, this was going to be a supervised, safe event. The party would be at an Airbnb with Infinity's mother serving as the chaperone, making sure all the girls stayed safe and out of trouble.
A 16-year-old girl went to what her parents thought would be a chaperoned holiday party, and she never made it back home. Her parents question where the adults were during the violence and say they want to see more people face charges.
It sounded perfect, innocent, and exactly the kind of wholesome holiday fun that parents want their teenagers to experience. Kalisha's parents, April Smith and her stepfather, Ronnie Savoy, were told explicitly that this was a girls-only sleepover at an Airbnb with adult supervision. Based on these assurances, they gave Kalisha permission to go, trusting that she would be safe with her friend and under the watchful eye of a responsible adult. They had no reason to suspect that almost everything they had been told was a complete lie. But the truth was very different from what Kalisha's parents had been led to believe. The party wasn't at an Airbnb at all. Instead, it was being held at the Hyatt Regency Atlanta Hotel in downtown Atlanta, with the room booked under an adult's name, possibly Infinity's mother, and it definitely wasn't a girls-only party. Boys were there too, including a 16-year-old male who would become the prime suspect in Kalisha's murder. The party that Kalisha thought would be innocent fun was actually an unsupervised gathering of teenagers in a hotel room, the kind of situation where things can spiral out of control quickly because there are no adults present to set boundaries or intervene when tensions rise. She had no way of knowing that by walking through that door, she was stepping into the final hours of her life, a night that would end with her lying on a hotel lobby floor as strangers tried to comfort her. On the evening of December 25, 2020, Kalisha arrived at the Hyatt Regency Atlanta Hotel expecting to have a fun, safe time with her friends at what she believed was a supervised girls-only sleepover. Instead, she walked into a hotel room full of teenagers without any adult supervision, with boys present despite what she and her parents had been told. But Kalisha was already there. Her friends were there, and like many teenagers in that situation, she probably figured she might as well make the best of it and have some fun. The night progressed with teenagers doing what teenagers do at unsupervised parties, talking, laughing, taking videos for social media, and just hanging out. Around 12:02 in the morning on December 26th, Kalisha pulled out her phone and started recording a TikTok dance video in the hotel room. She was doing what she loved, dancing for her followers, creating content, living her dream of being a social media influencer. But then something strange happened during that video. Whilst the 19-year-old was dancing, she suddenly looks away from the camera towards something off-screen.
It shows her making a TikTok dance and appears startled when someone comes into the room. Within seconds, the video ends.
Whatever she sees pulls her full attention, and she soon becomes really startled as if someone has stepped closer than she expected. Before we ever see who entered the room or what followed, the video cuts off. That 21-second TikTok video would be the last content Kalisha ever created, and it captured her final moments of normalcy before everything went horribly wrong. What happened in the next 21 minutes remains somewhat unclear because there were no cameras in the hotel room itself, and the teenagers present have given varying accounts. But what we do know is this. At approximately 12:23 to 12:27 in the morning on December 26th, an argument broke out in that hotel room between Kalisha and the 16-year-old boy who had been at the party. Then, in an instant that would change multiple lives forever, a single gunshot rang out. The 16-year-old boy had pulled out a gun and shot Kalisha in the groin area during the heated argument. The bullet struck a major artery, and Kalisha began bleeding severely. The room that moments ago had been filled with music and teenage laughter was now a crime scene, with a 16-year-old girl dying on the floor while her friends panicked around her. What happened next raises serious questions that Kalisha's family still demands answers to. Instead of immediately calling 911 or seeking help right there in the room where Kalisha had been shot, two teenage boys and Infinity made the decision to carry Kalisha's body down to the hotel lobby. By the time they brought her downstairs, Kalisha was already dead. She didn't die in the lobby seeking help. She died in that hotel room, and then her body was moved. This detail is crucial because moving a body from a crime scene can be considered tampering with evidence, and it raises the question, why would they move her instead of calling for help immediately? Were they trying to cover something up? Were they panicking and not thinking clearly? Or was there something more sinister happening in that room that they didn't want investigators to find? In the lobby, hotel staff and guests were shocked to see teenagers carrying a bleeding girl's body. A woman named China Starkey, who was a guest at the hotel, rushed over and held Kalisha's hand, trying to offer some comfort even though it was already too late. Police were called around 12:27 in the morning, and when officers arrived, they found a chaotic scene with traumatized teenagers, a dead girl, and very few clear answers about what had actually happened upstairs. But here's something that made this tragedy even worse for Kalisha's family. Her parents weren't notified about their daughter's death until around 8 or 9 o'clock that morning, nearly 8 hours after she was killed. They didn't hear from the police. They received the devastating news from the morgue. Imagine being a parent, thinking your child is safely at a supervised sleepover, only to get a call from the morgue telling you your daughter is dead. The shock, the horror, the complete disbelief that this could have happened when you thought she was safe. The Atlanta Police Department quickly identified and arrested the 16-year-old boy who admitted to shooting Kalisha during the heated argument. Community sources and a Change.org petition identify him as Kieri Brown, sometimes called KC Brown, though his name was never officially released to the public because he was a juvenile. He was charged with felony murder, aggravated assault, reckless conduct, and possession of a firearm by a minor, serious charges that acknowledged the severity of what he had done. But for Kalisha's family, these charges against the shooter weren't nearly enough. They had so many questions about that night, so many things that didn't add up, and they felt that other people who were responsible for creating the situation that led to their daughter's death were getting away without any consequences whatsoever. As a juvenile offender, the 16-year-old shooter's case was handled in Fulton County Juvenile Court with a focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment. The details of his trial, sentencing, and current whereabouts are all sealed under Georgia's juvenile privacy laws, which means the public and even Kalisha's family don't have access to full information about what happened to the person who took their daughter's life. Reports indicate he was detained at a youth facility, but there's no public confirmation about how long he was actually held or whether he's currently free. This lack of transparency has been incredibly frustrating for April Smith and Ronnie Savoy, who feel like the justice system failed their daughter by treating her death as something that could be solved with juvenile rehabilitation.
12:02, and she was dead at 12:23. I need answers from 12:02 to 12:20.
But their anger and suspicion extend far beyond just the shooter. Kalisha's family has been vocal in criticizing the lack of additional charges against Infinity, Infinity's mother who allegedly helped arrange or knew about the party, and the Hyatt Regency Atlanta Hotel for failing to properly supervise minors on their property. They believe that multiple people and institutions failed Kalisha that night, creating the circumstances that led to her death, and only one person faced any consequences.
I had my niggas pull up. 3 shots to the gut. Fuck that nigga, ain't for the head. So you want the nigga dead? Yeah, nigga, I said what I said.
Think about it from their perspective. Infinity lied about where the party was being held and whether there would be adult supervision. If Infinity's mother helped book the room or knew what was really happening, she facilitated an unsupervised party with minors. The hotel allowed teenagers to gather in a room without proper oversight. All of these failures contributed to creating an environment where a 16-year-old boy felt comfortable bringing a gun to a party and using it when an argument got heated. But the family's concerns go deeper than just questions about who should have been charged. They have serious suspicions about what actually happened in that hotel room before Kalisha was shot, suspicions that center on whether she was sexually assaulted before her death. The family commissioned a private autopsy that allegedly found bite marks on Kalisha's body, suggesting she may have been assaulted before she was killed. However, this finding was never confirmed by official investigators, and no sexual assault charges were ever filed against anyone in connection with Kalisha's death. The family believes this potential evidence was ignored or covered up, and they've been fighting ever since to get federal investigators involved to take a fresh look at the case.
We got an active shooter outside. Active shooter.
There's other details about the crime scene that don't sit right with the family either. They've questioned why there was reportedly minimal blood found in the hotel room where Kalisha was shot, especially considering she died from a gunshot wound to the groin that would have caused significant bleeding. They want to know exactly what happened between 12:02 when Kalisha's TikTok video cut off and 12:23 when she was shot. That's 21 minutes that could hold crucial answers. And there's hotel surveillance footage in the hallways during that time that has never been publicly released. Why was Kalisha's body moved from the crime scene to the lobby instead of calling for help immediately? Were the teenagers panicking, or were they deliberately tampering with the scene? The family has created a petition called Justice for Pinky on change.org that has gathered over 3,000 signatures. In the petition, they lay out their allegations, including the possibility of sexual assault, and demand that the Department of Justice conduct a federal review of the case because they believe local authorities didn't properly investigate what happens to their daughter. The Hyatt Regency Atlanta issued a public statement expressing condolences to the family and confirming they cooperated with the police investigation, but they faced significant backlash from the community for allowing unsupervised minors to gather in one of their rooms without proper oversight or intervention. How did a group of teenagers end up in a hotel room with no adult supervision? Why weren't the hotel staff more vigilant about what was happening? In January 2021, just weeks after Kalisha's death, a memorial vigil was held outside the Hyatt Regency Atlanta Hotel, where devastated family members, friends, and community supporters gathered to honor Kalisha's memory. They released balloons, shared memories, and demanded justice for a young girl whose life was stolen far too soon.
Walk in the club and fuck it up. Ouch, paper cut, home for 4 hours standing up. Pick up and over and arch it up. She can't take what she do it this way.
The case continues to circulate on social media, particularly on TikTok, where true crime creators keep Kalisha's story alive and continue to question the official narrative. Her last TikTok video, the one that captured her final moments of happiness before everything went wrong, has been analyzed frame by people trying to understand what she saw or heard that made her look so startled right before the video cut off. Kalisha's TikTok account @KalishaWilliams7222 has remained inactive since her death, with all the videos taken down by TikTok. Well-wishers have resorted to watching and following her backup account, which still has some of her videos prior to her death. This is a frozen memorial to a dream that will never be fulfilled. Her follower count stopped at around 3,718 followers. They are numbers that represent real potential for a teenage girl who just wanted to dance, create content, and maybe become famous for doing what she loved.
Walk in the club and fuck it up. Ouch, paper cut, home for 4 hours standing up. Pick up and over and arch it up. She can't take what she do it this way.
The tragedy of Kalisha Williams serves as a painful reminder of several important lessons. First, it shows how easily teenagers can be deceived by friends they trust, and how quickly situations can spiral out of control when adults aren't present to provide supervision and set boundaries. For April Smith and Ronnie Savoy, the pain of losing Kalisha hasn't faded with time. They continue to speak out, demanding answers, pushing for accountability, and trying to ensure that what happened to their daughter doesn't happen to someone else's child. They want other parents to know that you can do everything right, ask all the right questions, and still have tragedy strike because someone lied to you about where your child would be and who would be watching them. The case remains officially closed by Atlanta authorities, with no federal review initiated despite the family's petitions and public pressure. The juvenile offender's records are sealed, meaning we may never know exactly what sentence he received or where he is today. Infinity Adams, her mother, and the hotel faced no criminal charges for their roles in creating the circumstances that led to Kalisha's death. But Kalisha's story lives on, told and retold by true crime creators, shared on social media, and remembered by a family that refuses to let her memory fade. She was more than just a statistic, more than just another victim of gun violence. She was Pinky, a 16-year-old girl with dreams and potential, whose life was stolen in a hotel room while she was just trying to have fun and be a teenager. May Kalicia Williams rest in perfect peace. She deserved so much more than the hand she was dealt. She deserved to grow up, to achieve her TikTok dreams, to graduate high school, to fall in love, to become whoever she was meant to be. Instead, her life ended at 16 because of lies, poor judgment, and a moment of violence that can never be undone.